Good evening, folks, and welcome. It is Saturday night. It is 7:30 p.m. It is time to kick things off, and here we go. So, welcome, folks, to another edition of the Ambassadorial Wing. And tonight we're going to be talking about Clone Wars Season 7. And with me this evening, I've got Stephen Bastion, Sir Nerdlot, and Number One Sci-Fi. We'll probably have a couple other people popping in here shortly. Gentlemen, thank you for being here tonight. And how y'all doing?
Doing pretty good.
I am doing well.
So,
Yep, doing great.
all right. Well, I know this week has been May the 4th and May the 8th and May the 9th. So we're going to wrap up Star Wars Weekend in Mary speaking, talking about Clone Wars Season 7, and we're going to talk about a couple other things pertaining to the Star Wars universe. Yeah, folks, we have gotten our final season, possibly, of Clone Wars, and I will say this: it went out with a bang. It started with a bang. We had a bit of a whimper in the middle, and it went out with a bang. So,
I mean, what a way to wrap up the series. I mean, oh my God.
Yeah,
It's
truly.
just-
Absolutely.
It was absolutely beautiful.
when they said they were coming out with season 7, I'm like, why? I mean, what's
right.
left? Where, and then, oh my God, like they wrapped it up. They brought it like, okay, we'll get into that.
Oh yeah, you know what? When they announced that Star Wars Season 7 was coming, I was like, yes!
Same.
Yeah, when they showed that trailer, I was like, yes! And to the chat, Moira Kitty, good evening, ma'am. Good to see you. Hope you're doing all right. Thank you for tuning in. But yeah, I was absolutely, positively psyched when they announced Season 7 of Clone Wars, because honestly, while I did enjoy Season 6, I was like, is this really how they're going to end it? And then they like, hold our beer. Dave Filoni and everybody else is like, here, hold my beer.
Well, because the thing with me though, I was excited about it, but at the same time, as a storyteller, as a filmmaker, I was like, well, what are they going to do that they haven't already done? We saw in Rebels kind of spoiled a lot that, we know Ahsoka's alive, obviously, because she was in Rebels. So it was kind of like, where are they going to go with this? Or is it just going to be more fan service? And so I was excited, but I was mildly skeptical. Like, is this going to be more like, okay, more the same, And when the season started out, it was kind of like that. I mean, they had the elite squad. I forget what they were called, but
the Bad Batch.
Yeah, the Bad Batch. Thank you.
Clone Force 99.
Yeah. And I thought, okay, this is different, but still it's the same missions. They're going on missions. They got to rescue somebody, and then when they brought in Ahsoka and it's that story arc started, I was just like, okay, now we're good. I'm ready.
Yeah. Well, and honestly, I loved Clone Force 99. I loved the Bad Batch because it very much harkened back to the Republic Commando game and everything, and the squad that you met there, because there were character similarities. And I've talked about this previously, but we're going to break everything down tonight. We're going to really kind of do a deep dive on Season 7. And I loved the Bad Batch. I loved the dynamic of them. And when we get to the end of the season, I'll bring this up. Well, actually, I'll bring it up now because we'll talk about this. But I'm wondering how they function during Order 66. Okay. Because if you think about it, that is a Jedi elimination squad if I ever saw one. if you really want to think about it.
Oh yeah,
definitely.
Well, one second before you continue, we need to put this out there because we haven't put it out there. If you guys have not seen episode 7, this will be spoiler intensive. So
ladies and gentlemen, if you have not, Stephen, thank you for bringing that up. If you have not watched season 7 of Clone Wars, leave now because there's going to be a bunch. We're going to be spoiling this thing. We're going to talk about everything. So if you don't want anything spoiled, leave now. And to the chat, Orange Hat Reviews, Brian Hill, Master and None, greetings, my friends. Good to see you. Orange Hat, thank you again for having me on last night. That was a fun debate. So, but yeah, honestly, this whole season, despite its flaws, and there are some, and I'll be the first to admit it, it was a great send-off for the series. It really was. And it tied a lot of the loose threads up and everything in a manner of speaking. And I will say this, the animation from the first season to now, I saw the advancement. I saw the change in the animation and everything, and how the textures and the facial features and everything have advanced from that first season, even from the movie and everything that they did back in 2008. So, guys,
but when she got, I gotta bring up one thing while I'm thinking about it. When she got off that ship, the shuttle, and we should bring Speaker in. Does he watch Star Wars?
I think he does. I don't know if he Speaker. If you want to join the discussion and everything.
He's seen season 7.
Yeah. Speaker, I put the link both on Twitter and on Discord. If you want to join us, I've got a couple of spots open yet, or at least I've got one other spot. I'm waiting on Roadcast. I'm holding a spot for him because he said he wanted to be here tonight. So,
but anyway, as I was saying,
go ahead.
When she got off that shuttle, when they landed on the Star Destroyer, and she got off the shuttle with the Mandalorians, and she was walking down the ramp, and R2-D2 ran over to her. I was waiting for her to call him R2-E. Like, I was just, that would have been so awesome. I mean, I know people hated that, but I don't know. It just would have had that element of nostalgia if she'd have just touched his dome and said, "Hey, R2-E." You know, that would have been, because that's what she called him.
Yeah, but the thing you have to realize, she was a young woman and everything. She was a young kid at the time, and she's grown up.
Oh yeah, but it still would have really just, got you right here if she'd have called him R2-E.
Yeah, Stephen, I wholeheartedly agree with you. So, but yeah, one thing that I loved about this season was you got some moments with Anakin, you got some moments with Obi-Wan, but the thing that I loved about this was very much focused on Rex and on Ahsoka. And that, I think, was the right focus for this final season in a lot of ways, because everybody else is just going to kind of fall away for one reason or another. But we got to more time with these two characters that we have built a relationship with from the movie, in spite of its flaws and everything, and through all this, and through the first 6 seasons. And the fact that they focused on Ahsoka and on Rex, I think, was a very good idea.
Well, I didn't know how they were going to wrap that up, because Rex, when Rex turned on Ahsoka, I thought, are they going to make a huge mistake? Because it is canon. It is. And I've had arguments with people about this. Rex was in Return of the Jedi.
There has been rumors. There's been fan theories about that. That the one
they canonized it. Lucas.
No, yeah, somebody did.
Lucas
did they?
Yes. Lucas.
Okay.
George Lucas said that was Rex.
Oh, okay. Well, then, hey, yeah, that's cool, because you think about it. Yeah, he would have been an older clone at that point, but still, and everything, he would have probably still been working with the Rebel Alliance. I mean, think about it. You've got a clone commander, or he was a commander. So I think the Alliance was very.
Yes.
Brian. Yeah, Brian.
Right.
Yeah, Brian. Yeah, he was the bearded guy. So
they said that, and I was wondering, because if she'd have killed him, that would have been a huge continuity error, but they didn't do it. They were right on there with it. So apparently they knew what they were doing, and it was very well done.
Well, if you remember in Rebels, Rex talks about his chip getting removed. So we just got that bit of plot hole to find out how he got his chip removed, and it was Ahsoka that did it. And, you know, the one thing that I loved about that part was when she's doing the chant or the recitation that Sheridan did in Rogue One. So that was one thing that I really appreciated and everything, was that nice little touch there.
It's very nice. Very nice.
Yeah. There are so many parallels drawn in this last season. Yeah. It's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and Brian Hill brings up a good point and everything. Rex was in Rebels. If you never saw Rebels, he was in it.
He was. Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, but guys, I know I've touched on a few things. Is there anything particularly you want to talk about in terms of this season or so?
I'll take a go real fast.
Yeah.
I liked Clone Wars, before Disney bought out and everything. So season 5 finale was one of my favorite Star Wars things ever. Ahsoka walking away from Anakin with that sunset and everything is one of the most beautiful things. And, like when they announced season 7, I'm thinking it back in my head, like, how could they end it as beautiful? And they knocked it out of the park with that scene of Darth Vader.
Oh yeah,
in that perfect shot with the helmet with his silhouette in it. It's so beautiful.
Yeah. I would have liked to have heard his voice. I mean, if he'd have said one line, like just said Ahsoka, and done it in Vader's voice, or had James Earl Jones do it, there's plenty of voice actors that can pull off Vader, but it would have been great to hear his voice. That's the only thing I feel robbed on, is I was waiting for him to say something.
Right. Yeah.
Well, honestly, I was glad that they didn't have Vader say anything. And here's an interesting thing. I don't know if any of you picked up on this. While all the characters were animated, that background looks like it was a painting, like an oil painting or a watercolor or something. It wasn't your normal background like you see in a lot of the other episodes of Clone Wars, particularly when Vader's.
Yeah, that last scene did look different in the animation style, at least for the background.
Yeah, which I thought was a very nice touch. When you see the wreckage and the helmets and the snow and everything of the Vintner.
Well, here's a question. During that scene, you see stormtroopers in the modern stormtrooper. Well, not the J.J. Abrams stormtroopers, but I'm talking about the new
OT.
Right. Yeah. I'm wondering how many of those are actually clones.
Well, they don't, as far as I recall, or I've heard. I haven't heard. I haven't heard how much of a passage of time there was towards the end of the episode and that last scene.
It had to be at least a year, because Vader had to recover, he had to recuperate.
Yep.
So, because by that point you would figure, I would say some of those were probably clone troopers and everything. That might have been Vader's detachment, the 501st. Or it could have just been a random detachment of maybe it's a mixture of clones and recruits.
It's never been said that the Emperor ordered the death of the clones. So,
no, I don't think the clones were ever actually killed. I think they maybe just aged them out and just kind of phased them out over time.
Well, it makes
everything.
Episode 4. It makes sense in Episode 4 when she said, "Aren't you a little short for a stormtrooper?" Meaning that clones are all the same height.
Yeah, and that's a possibility as well and everything, because clones, by and large, were taller than most everyone else that were around them, except for maybe Anakin and Obi-Wan and what have you. But by and large, the clones were significantly taller than everybody else that was around them. So that is a distinct possibility that was what Leia was making that remark about.
Yeah, she was referencing the clones. She had to be.
Yeah, because she might have been a very young woman and everything, but she may have seen a clone here and there and everything. So, but going back to the beginning of the season, I honestly liked that first initial arc and everything with the Bad Batch and with Anakin and Obi-Wan and what have you. And Orange Hat brings up a good point. He halted production of the clones because some disobeyed Order 66, and he's saying that's Legends. So, and Speaker also brings up another good point. You feel the loss Ahsoka feels looking at all those clones.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, when she's standing in front of the graveyard and drops her saber.
Mm-hmm. I'm a man, but I'm not gonna lie. I got a little. That broke me. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. That got me.
Mm-hmm. Number one sci-fi. You sound like you were gonna say something.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say they specifically said that Fives did not have the chip in his head because he was flawed in some way or whatever.
He removed his own chip.
Okay.
Well, actually, no, it was Tup and everything that had the defective chip, and Fives was the one that ran the whole story to ground. And it was Fives that got, I think, taken into custody by Palpatine or something along those lines. I can't remember exactly.
Fives removed his own chip.
Fives removed his chip.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
But he couldn't play.
Yeah, they basically split this season into like 3 sections, I guess.
Yeah.
First section is the Bad Batch, which was the first 4 episodes. Then the middle 4 was Ahsoka and the group of ladies that she got in with.
The Martez sisters. Yeah,
the Martez sisters. And then the final 4 episodes was basically Ahsoka and Maul, and then them combining that with Revenge of the Sith, basically incorporating basically the same stuff happening at the same time in that movie with, Anakin turning and Maul, specifically saying to Ahsoka, Anakin's going to turn, and she obviously not believing him and stuff like that,
Well, it's totally changed how I watch episode 3 now, because I can see, I'll know what's going on. Like, this was all happening at the exact same time. So it's like a flip side of what was going on that we never saw in episode 3. So I watched episode 3 the other day, and it totally changed it for me, because now I know what was going on when they were talking to Ahsoka, and all of that stuff, and that she was on Mandalore during all of that. It totally changes it.
Hey, Orange Hat, I put the link on Twitter on the links, the stream link. Chad, if you want to pop in here, you're more than welcome and everything. I'll be happy to have you on. So feel free to use that link, bud. But the thing that I really appreciated about that first arc was the fact that Rex is having inner turmoil. He's having inner conflict because of the war and how much. Hey, Nerf Herder. Hey, Rogue Nerf Herder. I sent you. The link is on my Discord, and it's also on Twitter. So if you want to pop in here as well and everything, get on in here, my friend. The link is on my Discord. Oop. I'm hearing myself. That's okay. Oh, Turner, you're good, bud. Echo. But as I was saying, I love the fact that Rex is having some inner turmoil. He's having inner conflict about the war and about all the lives that have been lost. Because you see him in that hut or that in that portable barracks, and he's looking at that picture of him and Jesse and Fives and Tup, and I think that was the group that was in that shot with him. And you see the conflict, and you pick up on the fact that I think it's Anakin at least is picking up on some issues that are going on in Rex's mind. So, all right, here he is.
Hey, Rogue Nerf Herders, good to see you too, man.
So that's Rogue Podcast and everything. He changed his name.
I know.
Hey, Orange Hat, good to have you, bud.
I know who he is.
How you guys doing?
Doing okay. So we're talking all things season 7. So I was just commenting. You may or may not have heard I was just commenting on the fact that a lot of this season focuses on Rex and his issues with the war and all the friends that he's lost, his brothers and everything. And
yes,
guys, what do you think about that? Okay, no problem, Rogue.
I'm sorry, what was your question again?
Rex's inner turmoil about the war and everything as we see it through his eyes in this final season. Y'all's thoughts on that?
I think it was a good way to start the season, start Clone Wars back up. The fact that it's always been really delving more into the clones. And the fact that, they all have different names and stuff like that. And I think that's even highlighted more with the Bad Batch, with them having their specific set of skills that they have individually.
I like the commander.
Say that one more time, Stephen.
I like that they made him a commander. I thought that was pretty cool.
Well, yeah, he's been a commander since I think the beginning of the series. So
he was a commander class.
Oh, okay,
yeah.
That's why he received the direct message from Palpatine.
Yeah, good point.
But that's why they gave him, because remember Obi-Wan or Anakin had said, Obi-Wan said she's not part of the Jedi Order anymore. She can't lead, and he said, Anakin said, why don't we just make Rex a commander?
Yeah, good point. Yeah, okay, yeah, because up until that point, he was Captain Rex. He wasn't. Yeah, he was still an ARC trooper. He still had the ARC training and everything, but he was. Yeah, you're right. He was a captain up until that point. So, but yeah, there's so much about this season and everything. I want to open up the floor to you guys. Anything?
There is one thing that I don't like.
Okay, what's that?
It was kind of a direct slap in the face to J.J. Abrams.
Okay.
I don't know if anybody else caught it.
I may or may not have.
One of the funniest moments in Episode 9 was when they launched those stormtroopers into the air, and 3P goes, "They fly now," and then Finn goes, "They fly now," and he goes, "They fly now." That was great, but we saw them fly I didn't like the fact that they were flying. It kind of really took away from the whole fact that stormtroopers flying was something totally new by Episode 9. Now it's, of course, not. It kind of took away from that.
Well, even John Boyega called that out.
Oh, he did?
He actually called it out on an interview with Isaac and somebody else.
Okay,
they're like, crazy. Where did they fly? He's like, they did it in the Clone Wars.
Yeah, so I'm not crazy. Okay, because it just seemed like really. I mean, kind of, like I said, that was a great moment, and now it's like, yeah, of course they fly now. What are you stupid? Of course we've seen them fly.
Well, and even in the games and everything, if you think about in Battlefront, the classic Battlefront 1 and 2, you have flying clone troopers.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So that's not. I mean, for crying out loud. That too, yeah. The Dark Troopers, everything, the robotic troopers, they flew. So, Rocast, I just sent you the link, so you should be getting it any second now. So
why can't we see your pretty face?
The one thing.
Oh,
and I just want to get this out really quick.
Sure.
The one thing that I did not. I mean, don't get me wrong. For the most part, I thought season 7 was good.
Mm-hmm.
But when they did the final 4 episodes, the Order 66 episode, Shattered, was where they flawed the most.
How do you figure?
Because the episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, when I originally saw it back in 2005, they basically made it as if the episode itself was weeks long, not days, weeks.
Well, we don't know how much time passed and all of that.
True, they don't specifically mention it. They don't specifically mention it. Yes, that is true. But the way that they showed Padme in the beginning of the episode, where she was still wearing the gowns, but she was not showing as much, to the point where at the end she was showing heavily.
But we have we have no idea in the episode Shattered how long. I mean, it could have been months. It could have been a year.
No, because the Siege of Mandalore in the Clone Wars show, they basically showed it as going days, like 3 days tops. And that is the one thing that irked me the most. Plus the Order 60, when Order 66 goes down. If you look at the model of Sidious in that specific episode, when he gives Commander Rex that order, look at every previous model of his character in the previous seasons. It has not changed. When Palpatine gave the Order 66, he was already deformed from the Force lightning that was reflected back on him. And Commander Rex saying, "Yes, Lord Sidious," that's a problem. Because how does he know who Lord Sidious is, first off? Secondly,
part of the chip.
Every clone, if it was part of the chip, every clone would have said, "Yes, Lord Sidious." They said in episode 3, "It will be done, my lord." That is one thing I wish Filoni had paid more attention to. It would have made more sense for Rex to say, "It will be done, my lord."
And I can
would have been a nice little callback as well, like a little nod.
and Orange Hat. I can see your I can see that being a bit of an issue. But honestly, for me,
but
it's not it's not a deal breaker. Yeah,
it's not a deal breaker. But like I said, it is because of my autism. It's something that I can't unsee. It's flaws that are in there that I can't just ignore. But like I said, it's for the most part, if you turn your brain off for the most part, it's very entertaining to watch.
They call it in show suspension of disbelief.
Yes. Also, how did the clones get so inaccurate with their shooting when Maul was coming toward them? I mean, they went full stormtrooper in that moment. It's like,
I think
how are you guys not hitting him?
Stormtroopers.
How? I mean, it's like, how are you not hitting him?
Yeah. I would agree.
I mean, they're shooting right in front of him as he's walking around. I'm like, you guys were better than that. You're the 501st.
Yeah,
you're the 501st. You're going to become so. You're eventually going to become Vader's fists. Well, maybe not that particular detachment, because as we know, that entire detachment gets wiped out and everything when the ship crashes.
Yeah, when the ship went down.
One of the reasons as well that they say like stormtroopers can't shoot too well is because they're just people trained and they're not clones.
Yes.
So it kind of like messes with that little thing we used to say. We can't say that anymore because it turns out stormtroopers, as soon as they become bad, suddenly
that's something that I actually touched on in the chat earlier. When they discontinued the line, if you go back to Battlefront 2, which is considered Legends, the original Battlefront 2, not the thing that they got now, Boba Fett actually leads the assault on Kamino.
Yeah, I remember
to destroy the remaining productions of Fett clones, because they were being bred to stand against the Empire. Now, and one of the things from the 501st narrative is we never did get used to the new guys. Also in Order 66, the book, which is also sadly Legends, they had Syntax clones that were being created in days instead of years, meaning they were rapidly grown and all that stuff, which is why a high percentage of them were committing suicide, because they were going nuts.
Well, and the other interesting thing about this season, you really, as particularly once you get away from the first arc and they wrap that up. And I'll say this: I like the part where the Bad Batch allows Echo to come and join them. And Orange Hat, I brought this up before you came in, and Roadcast, same for you. I made this comment that I felt that the Bad Batch was essentially a Jedi elimination squad. So, y'all's thoughts on that?
They would have actually, they would have been specifically tasked after the Empire had, or after the whatchamacallit, the conversion from Republic to Empire. They would have been specifically tasked to take out specific targets like Jedi or even senatorial dissidents.
Yeah,
they would have basically been CIA wet work in USA or in real world terms. They would have been the wet works.
Yeah, they would have been probably tasked with taking out any senators that dissented, with going into hotspots that Sidious or whoever wanted to tap them. Because if you remember one comment and everything during that first arc that I think, I forget who exactly asked the question, well, who do y'all report to? And Hunter's like, well, we can't necessarily say. And that gives me the impression that these guys, they answer to Palpatine or somebody that's working for Palpatine. One of the two would be my guess.
Mm-hmm.
So
it would have been clone intelligence that they reported to directly.
Yeah,
I like how one of them looked like I don't know, I forget his name, but he looked like Solid Snake from Metal Gear Solid.
Oh, Hunter!
Thank God somebody said that.
Yeah. Who said that? That was Rogue. Yeah, he said that.
Dude, thank you for saying that.
Well,
because I actually tagged Filoni in a tweet. I'm like, did you get your inspiration from Solid Snake or Rambo?
Well, and here's the other thing. Orville Nation, welcome, my friend. Good to see you. Thank you for tuning in. The design of the Bad Batch. Now, I made this comment a few minutes ago. I don't want to belabor the point, but they very much their personality and the makeup of the squad reminded me of the squad of Delta 99, or the Republic clone or Republic Commando squad from the game. And everything.
Delta Squad. Yep.
Delta Squad. Thank you. But here's the other thing that I liked. Now, I can see where you could say Hunter looks like Solid Snake. To me, he looks like John Rambo, where Crosshair reminds me of Clint Eastwood and what have you. And honestly, that the whole makeup of that squad and those characters was such a cool dynamic. Not to mention, there was some animosity between the Bad Batch and the what they called the Regs. Yeah, and I thought that was an interesting little bit that they put in there, because there were a couple instances, particularly I think in the second or third episode, where Rex and I think it's Cody or somebody, or no, it's Rex, because Cody gets injured in the first episode of the arc, and he's not
Jesse.
It might have been.
It was Jesse that actually shoved into one of them because they kept on they kept on trying to egg him on, and that's when Mr. Hulk clone, I can't remember, Wrecker, I believe his name is.
Yeah, Wrecker.
Yeah, grabs him by the throat and it's like, yeah, you want some?
Yeah, because here's the thing. Even though they've got those inhibitor chips, they've still got that Fett defiant streak in them, and they're not going to back down from nobody. If anything, that the independence and everything has been heightened even more, and that ruthless streak has been heightened even more.
Yeah.
So,
because, like they said, like they described them, they basically said the Bad Batch is a failed clone or failed clones with favorable mutations.
Yeah. Kind of like 99 was, if you remember 99 from...
I remember 99, the Hunchback. And believe me, every time I watch that particular arc where 99 bites it, I'll cry. I cry every time.
Well, yeah.
because he was the epitome of what every clone should strive to be towards. You may be deficient in one way or another, but but your duty is still to protect and serve.
Yes, I wholeheartedly agree with you. Let's get into the middle arc a little bit, because I know this is an arc that some people had issue with. Okay, Orange, behave yourself.
Actually, I was
just shrugging.
Actually, just stretching.
Okay, all right, my mistake. Sorry.
But also slightly cringing.
But let's get into this middle arc just a little bit, because honestly, while some of the execution wasn't the best, at the same time, I think this is an arc that was necessary. And I yield the floor to you, gentlemen. Anything? Let's discuss this.
Well, I defended the arc on my podcast. It's not perfect by any means.
Yeah.
It's kind of come at the wrong time, because you just want them to get on with it. But, she's got to get to Darth Maul somehow. But definitely 4 episodes was a little bit long. I didn't mind the characters too much. And I definitely like seeing the lower levels of Coruscant. And I think when you're looking at like this, when you look at it as it's for aimed at 12-year-olds around that age, you can see that they're trying to give them a moral lesson on, I don't know, looking out for themselves, I guess, and the right decisions to make and the bad decisions to make. But also from Ahsoka's point of view, it leads into the kind of character she is in the novel, based on her, where she's got I don't know, which it just shows you how she comes apart from the Jedi, and she's looking out for the little guy rather than wanting to get involved in the big galactic conflict. But at the same time, I remember thinking, well, what was that for, when she's going to be fighting Maul or Mandalore in a big conflict? So it went to waste a little bit for me, but it wasn't too bad, and I can see the issues people have with it.
Yeah, same.
But I didn't mind it too much.
Steven, go ahead.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. I didn't like the girls. I thought they were, it is just kind of. But I mean, I knew what they were trying to do. They had to fill time. I mean, thank God. Look, we had an entire season of Clone Wars and no Jar Jar, like not one time. So I'm good with that. There was not one mention of Jar Jar at all. So.
Yeah, Disney really don't like to reference him very often, do they?
Yeah, I can't honestly say I blame them. Sci-fi, Nerdlot, and everything. Anything you want to comment on in terms of the middle?
I mean, just at least they included Bo-Katan in the middle part as well. That made, to me at least, it a little bit more interesting, because believe me, if it had been just the sisters the whole time in Ahsoka, then I would be like, yeah, there's no purpose to this story at all. But at least throwing in Bo-Katan and kind of shoehorning the Mandalorians kind of into it, I guess, as well, did at least make a little bit of a difference,
Yeah. The thing I will, Nerdlot, anything you want to comment on?
Oh, yeah. I like the middle arc. I think Ahsoka should have fallen a little bit more, not necessarily fallen, but she had just left the Jedi Order, and it seemed like she found another home way too quickly for me.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Yeah. The things I will say about the middle arc are this. I did appreciate the fact that she got an eye opener, particularly when they're there on Obadiah, however way you want to pronounce it. And they're sitting there in that cell, and the Martez sisters are talking about when this whole mess came down through their section and everything. And I forget which one, if it was Trace or the other one, said that their parents got killed because of what happened, and the Jedi just said, well, blah blah force, and then just walked off. And honestly, I think that was very much an eye-opener for Ahsoka. I mean, she had an eye-opening in terms of herself, But I think the reason they had part of this arc. Now, I will say one thing about this middle arc that I did not care for: the whole jailbreak, and then they end up right back in the same stinking cell. I did not. That was one thing about that episode, about this arc, that I did not care for, because I'm sitting here thinking, okay, they go through all this and they don't escape. Why not just have them escape and then have the Mandalorians follow them off planet, say, hey, we need you, and they take Ahsoka and go off and do their thing?
It kind of plays into what Steven just said about it being filler, basically. Like, they just dragged it out for one extra episode. Go on, Orange Hat. Sorry.
It's all right. The way I see it is, I understand the reason why they did this arc. Believe me, I do. But it's the changes that they made to this specific arc that I am against. Because Ryan Kinnell, RK Outpost, he has the original mock-up of these episodes pre-Disney.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Trace was actually supposed to be a male character who was Asian, and was also supposed to be a love interest for Ahsoka.
Now that I honestly was not aware of. I did know about the change with the nose art for the one ship and everything that the Bad Batch used, but beyond that, I didn't know about any other changes that had been made.
That change makes sense from a Disney perspective. That's about their branding.
Yeah.
But the one that Orange Hat's talking about makes.
And I got to tell you, I'm glad they didn't go there, because I would not have liked that if. No, I'm glad they went the way they went. I would not have liked Ahsoka having a love interest. That wouldn't have done it for me.
Well, she already did, though.
Well, I thought Rex.
She already did with Lux Bonteri.
Yeah,
I forgot.
They didn't end up together, did they? That's kind of like
they never ended up together, but it was very clear that they had feelings for each other.
Well, yeah,
I thought her and Rex did too, didn't they?
No,
Rex did not see Ahsoka in any romantic way. That's the thing about most of the clones, is they didn't have any romantic interest aside from Cutler Quane from season 1 and the Bad Batch from season 7. You really don't see any of the clones having a romantic interest or any guy interest of that particular.
They didn't have a lust.
level.
They didn't have lustful thoughts. Let's put it.
Exactly.
It's more of a
was
comradeship.
bred out of them. Say what?
It's more of a comradeship, wasn't it? Like,
Exactly. It was basically it was a close friendship, but it was never sexual. Because also, if it was, it would have been extremely disturbing. Because at this time, Ahsoka is only 16.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It wouldn't have been. I wouldn't have wanted her to have a love interest.
But the thing is, her having a love interest with Lux. I mean, Lux was also only like 15, 16 years old in the Clone Wars. She
had a crush on him.
A crush. Mm-hmm. True,
but was
it's like
romantic relationship. That's a whole different thing.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. But the thing is, they do show that it's hard for Jedi it's hard for anybody who's actually coming into that level of development to not completely shove down those feelings. And that's one of the things that they did. Well,
hell, even Anakin couldn't do it. And Obi-Wan
Anakin
had a
could
hard
never
time.
put down Anakin could never commit to detachment.
Obi-Wan was in love with what's her name?
Satine.
Satine.
He had another love interest as well. Obi-Wan not in the Clone Wars.
Also, one of the things I did like about Bo-Katan and her Mando's sisters being in there, that also is a connection to Rebels, because the one that also Sabine. Had her helmet off was Sabine Wren's mother.
Yeah, I thought that one character looked familiar. Honestly, that
Just
one that was
younger.
Yeah, but I mean, it's still plausible that she could be Sabine's mother. So it works.
Yeah, because I was like, "Is that Sabine?" And I was like, "Hang on, timelines don't match." So
yeah, because Rebels, I mean, as entertaining as that was in areas, the ending made no sense. But
I forget the ending, honestly.
Basically, the ending, they did a epilogue of after.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Episode 6, and it's like the Twilight woman had a kid with Kanan, and I'm like, makes no sense. But yeah.
Harrison Dula. Yeah. Twi'lek and a human, because they refer to non-aliens as humans and everything in the show and everything, and in the movies and what have you.
There's only one problem. But that's for a different discussion. That's a different discussion.
Yeah, that's one thing that shocked me.
Let's stay on Clone Wars.
I think it was in the second to last episode when we're on that rampage and that someone actually got their arm severed by a door.
Oh yeah,
and that kind of shocked me on Disney.
It wasn't just an arm. I mean, he was going full Vader from Rogue One. He was slicing people apart with pieces of wall.
He's talking about when the elevator was coming up and then got cut in half. Now they didn't show it, but you
heard it.
It was a cringe-worthy moment.
Now, did it bother you?
He pulled the guy forward so that the door would close over his arm.
Yeah,
and then he just takes the arm, or then he just takes the gauntlet.
Yeah. Number one sci-fi. What were you gonna say?
Did it bother you that Maul basically knew too much about Anakin turning, or no?
No.
No.
Honestly, no, because Maul did not have full details or anything on what Sidious / Palpatine's scheme was. He had he did have some knowledge. Yeah, Rogue, go ahead.
Bosh, you brought up a good point in my podcast a few days ago. The one I released a couple of weeks ago which is that possibly Sidious implanted those dreams into Maul to create a distraction to keep Ahsoka out the way, keep Maul out the way.
That's always possible with Palpatine.
With Palpatine that's possible because
that's a stretch in my opinion.
Well,
it's a stretch.
Well, Orange, here's the thing, though, because there has been a lot of theory going around, and I think there's some validity to it. I don't know. I'm not saying it's 100% accurate, but there are some people who say that the dreams that Anakin was having, particularly in Episode 2 and in Episode 3, were being put in there by.
Oh yeah,
were being put in there by Sidious.
I totally believe that.
Yeah.
Now,
I heard those theories, but they're, in my opinion, they're a stretch, because the thing is, for Sidious to be doing that during certain times, it would basically require him to be focusing on several different things at once, because also, and this actually does lend weight to your argument, after Anakin is in the suit, he no longer has any of those visions.
No.
So that actually does lend weight to your argument, but I don't think that Sidious was actually able to put that much detail into visions, because visions are supposed to be obscure.
Yeah, they're supposed to be primarily from the Force, anything or a person who's able to access that particular ability from the Force. Go ahead, Stephen.
I think Sidious manipulated Anakin from day one, like hardcore.
That is true. He did.
And him putting dreams in his head and visions to mess with his mind is not beyond the realm of possibility.
Yeah,
pushing them maybe. Yeah,
now that I actually do think about it, it is entirely possible, because look at Episode 3. You will be able to save your wife from certain death. I know it's been troubling you. Listen to me, and whatnot. So there is a lot of weight to those theories.
That's what I love about it. That was so ambiguous in that way.
They also showed specifically both Maul and Ahsoka hearing the Windu. Anakin,
that moment,
Sidious
the pivotal moment.
Showdown,
People that are really in tune with the Force, though, would hear that. I mean,
but why not Yoda? Why not Obi-Wan?
Yoda is the biggest question.
Wait,
Yoda didn't necessarily hear it, but if you remember in Revenge of the Sith, he felt the shift. He felt the shift, and I think that was what they were trying to do in that particular episode, Shattered, was show the shift of the Force from the light to the dark. I mean, it really going over the tipping point from the light to dark.
Yeah.
Because,
hang on.
Because, go ahead, Stephen.
Hang on. I gotta say this. We didn't see Yoda react to it, but that doesn't mean that he didn't. In episode two, when Anakin killed the Sand People, Yoda reacted. He was like, "I feel his pain. He's in terrible pain." So yeah, the fact that he felt that, he would have felt the fall. And
he did. It they do show it in the movie.
Well, if you remember, Stephen, if you remember Revenge of the Sith, after Sidious gives the order, you have those scenes and everything where you see the clones taking out the Jedi, and then you finally go to Kashyyyk where Yoda's on that platform overlooking the battle, and you see him kind of swooning and holding his head and everything, and that's him reacting to all those Jedi being killed off.
So, and you don't hear it because of the music, but he knows that Anakin is the one responsible. How does he know that?
He knew because he said to Obi-Wan, if you go into those records, you're not going to like what you see, basically.
Only pain there will you find.
Yeah,
in the novel, they actually explain it further. You already know who did this.
Exactly.
And he's actually telling him. But yeah, just a small correction. When right after he anoints Anakin Vader is when Yoda starts picking up on the feelings. Because right then is the radical shift of the dark side, is when the dark side has been tilted very more or further into the dark, and that's when Yoda walks to the edge and has his hand on his head.
Okay.
When Order 66 is given, and is when it's a major disturbance, is when he basically drops his cane and has a heart attack. Almost. It's like
what the hell's going on here?
Yeah, what a movie! What a novel.
That's
amazing.
The thing I love about that second to last episode, Shattered, it had at certain points it had very minimal dialogue, and it was mainly just the music. And I think that was supposed to actually mirror that particular scene in Revenge of the Sith, where you have Anakin there in the council chamber, and you have Padme in her quarters, and you have Mace and the rest of those Jedi going off to confront Palpatine. And it's very ominous. It's very atmospheric, and the music, everything kind of mirrors that. You almost get the impression that during that particular section of that episode, that's exactly what's going on in terms of what's going on in the movie Revenge of the Sith. While they're
they did a very good job putting those parallels in.
Yeah, while Maul's being transferred to the Star Destroyer and everything, all those pieces are in motion and everything, and then all of a sudden you have that one clone officer come in and say, "We've got another briefing coming in," and Rex is like, "Do you want to come with?" And she's like, "No, I'm sure it's just more good news." And then that's when.
And I knew when he said that exactly what that was. Order 66.
Yeah,
probably. Yeah,
that's what that was.
Yeah, I have to agree.
Now, what confused me. Well, I'm sorry, real quick. I got to say this. What confused me is the fact that they went after Ahsoka. Ahsoka was not a Jedi. There was no reason.
They tried to explain that in the following episode.
Her job, because she wasn't a Jedi. There was no reason to go after her.
Actually, there was every reason. There was every reason.
Just because
she was her connection to Anakin.
Yeah.
Anakin has just been anointed Darth Vader. Her knowledge alone is enough to be a direct threat to the Empire.
and could turn Anakin bad.
Well, but here's the thing:
yeah.
the only thing that Sidious says is execute Order 66. He doesn't specifically say execute Ahsoka Tano.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is, except for Rex, every other clone on that ship assumes that Ahsoka is still a Jedi. So ergo, the Order still holds.
Well, here's what you got to understand.
Mm-hmm.
But Rex,
they see lightsabers, they assume Jedi.
Yeah, but Rex
True.
knew she wasn't a Jedi, and Rex was in command. He could have said, "We don't need to go after her. She's not a Jedi." He knew that she wasn't a Jedi. There was no reason to go after her. That was a big flaw in the story.
Yes, it is. But there's also the other thing, which, in my opinion, doesn't make sense. All the implants and the chips, they don't make sense. Because that chip is supposed to overwhelm all logic and reason, and you are supposed to obey it to the letter immediately. Yes, Tup had his, or his was defective, and Fives had his removed. And this is why I raised the issue of, yes, Lord Sidious. How did Fives react when Palpatine told him the truth off screen? He was ready to execute Palpatine.
Yeah.
And so if Rex knew who Sidious was, why wasn't he and also he says Fives find Fives.
Yeah.
And it's like, that means, or that one report that fell on deaf ears, like he said in that report.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
There's something that's wrong here. So the yes, Lord Sidious made no sense. It should have been, it will be done, my lord.
And then there's
so it creates too much confusion.
For me, there's a lot to like about it, but one thing, I thought Rex was I fully expected Rex just to refuse the order, because isn't there meant to be clones who rebelled against the order, or is that now Legends? I guess that doesn't occur
It's
anymore.
now Legends, yes. Or Order 66 with the Null Arcs and Rise of Darth Vader are with with the captains there on Marcana. They did not, or they refused the order at first, but they also told their commanders, if we do see you again, we will be shooting for effect. And the Null Arcs, they ignored it outright. Ordo, he put on his helmet because he realized it was a priority signal, and he heard execute Order 66, and he responded with, it will be done, my lord, or yes, my lord. But the first thing he does is go straight to his father, Cal Scarata, and say, the order's been given, we got to get Etain out of here.
Well, they referred to,
because they were still in Coruscant.
They referred to Vader as my lord, and they knew that he was Vader. It would depend on the situation. Just because some clones referred to him as my lord doesn't mean that some clones wouldn't also refer to him as Darth Sidious. They did that with
Vader. But how did they? Sidious, the name Sidious
might have been
is one of the most classified things in Star Wars.
But once the Order 66 was given, that chip unlocked all that information and data and dumped it into their brains. It's not that they were controlled by the Sith as much as they were led to believe at that point by all of this data that was dumped by the chip that the Jedi were evil. They were traitors. They were a threat to the Empire, a threat to they were evil. Remember, even Anakin said, Yoda or Obi-Wan said, the Sith are evil, and Anakin said, from my point of view,
the Jedi are evil.
And you know what? And I'm gonna say this because we can talk a little bit about Revenge of the Sith because it does pertain to this last arc and everything in a lot of ways. I can understand Anakin's point of view and everything and when he makes that statement that the Jedi are evil.
Yeah, to go a bit further, and I apologize, don't want to go off too much on a tangent here, but I understood Anakin's point of view when I read the Darth Bane novels, and it tells you from Darth Bane's perspective why Anakin would believe that and Sidious would believe that. Go ahead, sorry.
So more than the clones being controlled by Sidious, they were programmed by this chip to understand what was going on. At that point, they knew Darth Sidious was in charge. He was the good guy. The Jedi were evil. They were traitors. They had to be executed as traitors because remember, the clones, above anything else, were soldiers. They will do their duty, and they will do it for God and country because that's what they were programmed to do. They're loyal to a fault.
Yeah.
Just imagine if they received Order 65 instead.
Yeah, and I forget
if you know the book.
I've heard. Well, there's been a couple of videos. I think it was Thor Skywalker. I think even Star Wars Theory talked about Order 65 and what it does. I think even Generation Tech did as well, talking about what exactly Order 65 was. So imagine what would have happened if that had occurred, rather than Order 66 being
Order 65. Give people an idea of what it is.
Sure.
It's if the Chancellor acts in contradiction to the betterment of the Republic, he is to be immediately arrested and removed from power.
Right.
There's also Order 64, which is basically Order 66, but for the senators.
Right. So what I was saying makes sense, that each order is based on the situation at hand. Order 66 was to eliminate the Jedi because the Jedi were a threat to the Republic and they were evil. If Order 64 had been given, it would have been because the senators have turned against the Republic and they need to be eliminated. And Order 65 was to eliminate the Emperor if the Emperor was not acting in the best interest. These soldiers had specific orders, just like when they have the Prime Direct, when they have the directives.
Yeah, I agree.
They were called contingencies.
And I think those other plans were put in there for an excuse for the Chancellor to have Order 66, and it's like, oh well, I've got it against me as well, and I've got it against the senators. Exactly. These are just fail proofs. That's all.
Contingencies.
They were fail safes. He was basically created them to placate to the Senate, basically. Yep. Because think about it, several senators were leaving the Republic, so. They would have to do specific designation when giving Order 64. It's Order 64 is in effect, but only for this senator.
Right. I have very specific, and I must apologize to all of you and to the viewers that are watching this right now. I have very selfish reasons for the reason I'm trying to argue this so vehemently, because. The reason I wanted it to be where they didn't go after Ahsoka because she was no longer a Jedi is because in my film, Mara, my entire film is built on the fact that Othar Jade, my character, and Petra Jade, Mara Jade's parents, were not hunted down as Jedi because they were ejected from the Jedi Order prior to Order 66.
You're protected, so you're doing it to protect your own or protect your fanfic.
I have a very selfish reason for that.
It's not Steven, it's not selfish.
Hey, dude, that's awesome. I mean, and it's understandable too.
Yes.
But believe it or not, Soul Assassin, to answer his question, is there an Order 69? I'm pretty sure there is, but not the one you're thinking.
Right.
Probably, yeah, because contrary to what the sequel trilogy wants to try and build in, Palpatine wasn't getting down with the ladies. He was more interested in studying the Force.
Yeah.
There.
And
no sense for him to have
that's the thing, because there was, even in the Legends, there was a character, her name was Yvonne Izard.
Yeah.
Which was actually Armand Izard's daughter, who was rumored to be the Emperor's mistress.
Well,
and she actually fed off of that rumor.
Yes, Sly Moore was even rumored to be Palpatine's mistress.
Who?
Sly Moore. The one bald-headed woman.
She's the Umbaran.
Yeah, the Umbaran.
She's the Umbaran.
Yeah, that was there and everything.
There was always those rumors, and he actually had no problem allowing those rumors to go because, it would keep him less suspicious. Right. I mean, in episode 4, I'm sorry. I seriously wish they had kept the Vader trilogy of novels as canon. Labyrinth of Evil and Rise of Darth Vader, because if they had it, well, I can understand why Rise of Darth Vader is no longer canon, because they broke that when Disney got a hold of it. Because
I love that book.
I have to explain. I can't just dismiss it without explaining. At the end of that book, if you guys haven't read it, it explains why Anakin never went down to Tatooine in Episode 4, and it also explains that he would never be able to go to the Jedi Temple, Naboo, or Mustafar. Well, Rogue One established he has a castle in Mustafar, and it's like, oh, you idiots. When I saw that movie, I love Rogue One, don't get me wrong, but, and I can do the whole I could do the whole separation of fanfic and fiction and all this stuff, but it's like, that I would not have done. I would have
he's supposed to go back there.
It would have caused him enough. It would have caused him so much emotional trauma and so much trauma for him to stress out.
In the comics, in the new comics, he goes back to Tatooine when he goes to rediscover. First, he sends Boba Fett to Tatooine because he cannot go there himself. This is in the same timeline as where he has a castle on it, right? Or am I thinking is this comic? Yeah, it's just so contradictory. And he goes back there in between Episode 5 and 6, and that's when Anakin begins to awaken again, because he's facing up to his past. And it kind of kills that.
There is too many contradictions in the Disney canon, and believe me, Ambassador could actually do a whole live stream based on all the contradictions alone.
Oh, yeah.
And I could actually help him with that. But I'm telling you, they should have kept it to where Vader could not go to certain places because it could possibly kill him through stress alone. It would have made him more, human, so to speak, more relatable.
Yeah.
And now they're just doing the whole making the Disney is just they're basically making Vader to be an anti-hero, which was actually one of their goals. It's like, we want to make him like an or it's like, he's not an anti-hero.
He's not an anti-hero. He's evil.
Yeah, that's what makes his redemption so great.
You're opening a can of worms with me, my friend.
But that's what makes his redemption so great, isn't it?
Yeah.
He's evil. He's a villain. He's a full-on villain.
Really?
Go on,
He
Steven.
went down to the dark side, but he started to awake.
What did Vader ever do that was evil?
A lot.
Well,
in canon.
In canon.
How much time do you have?
In canon,
how much time do you have,
a
Steven?
village full of people on the Emperor's command, children and everything.
Like everything that he has done that is evil.
In the
stood
film,
by while Alderaan got destroyed.
In the films, he slaughtered kids.
Really? When did he slaughter kids?
Revenge of the Sith.
It's very much implied.
Okay, it's very much implied, but he was fighting enemy combatants. Are you telling me I've been in the military? If an enemy combatant comes at you with a grenade, you're going to take it out. I don't care if it's a 4-year-old.
But the problem is those kids weren't attacking him, Stephen. Those kids were there defenseless, and he slaughtered them. Not to mention he killed an entire village, men and women and children of Tusken Raiders. You're telling me that's not evil?
Those were animals, and he slaughtered them like animals. They killed.
Okay, you're using a piece of dialogue to defend. That's a quote.
Those kids,
the
Tusken kids were innocent.
Yeah,
they did not, or they are not trained until they are older.
Okay,
that's according to lore.
So, are you without sin? I mean, he made mistakes, and
nobody is without sin, dude. I'm not talking.
But Stephen, the thing,
he acted in anger. But what did he do that was pure diabolical evil? He didn't.
He killed children.
He was involved with the destruction of Alderaan.
I know a lot of soldiers in Iraq that killed children. It doesn't make them evil. They were enemy combatants.
Okay, in the terms of Star Wars
those
universe,
kids
that's
were
evil.
Defenseless. They had no ill intent towards Anakin. They were actually asking Anakin what should they do. I'm sorry. You pull your lightsaber and slice those kids apart. That's evil.
We never saw him do that.
But it is implied that
it is strictly implied,
does.
And it is also confirmed by Lucas that is exactly what he did.
You definitely opened up a can of worms here, Steve.
Yeah, when you get it straight from the horse's mouth, which is George Lucas, that he says that Anakin killed those kids, that's evil.
I'll grant you that one. He was under orders, and you saw when he was on Mustafar, the tears running down his eyes. He hated what he had to do. He hated what he'd become. He wasn't happy about what his orders were. He was ordered by the Emperor, by his master, to take out the Jedi, younglings included. He was under orders. A soldier will follow orders. That's the rule of war.
But this wasn't war. This was genocide in a manner of speaking.
There's a technical difference.
Jedi.
If you read the novel, and also, well, sadly, Rise of Darth Vader is Legends, but if you read the novel of Rise of Darth Vader, he was never given direct orders to slaughter the kids. Yes, he found the kids, and it actually explains. The dark side whispered to him, they are orphans. Nobody cares about them.
Well, he did. Emperor Palpatine did say in the film, show no mercy.
Show no mercy, do what must be done.
Do not hesitate, show no mercy.
Diabolical. Sith have to do something diabolical to give themselves to the dark side.
He said every Jedi is now an enemy of the Republic. Those younglings would have eventually become Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily.
If you could go back in time.
Not necessarily. If you kill all their masters, no.
If you could go back in time and kill baby Hitler, would you do it?
Yes. No. In a heartbeat. Yes.
Nope, I would not. I'm sorry, I would not. He has not committed committed an evil act.
Soul Assassin, among the ranks of the Jedi, there is no innocence.
And that's something I actually wanted to touch on there.
Is what Palpatine said, yes.
Yeah. Well, but here, okay, this is something that has been extremely, I hate to use this word because of who it's kind of linked to, or the part of our culture that it's linked to. But the Jedi are extremely problematic. I mean, think about this. They rip Force-sensitive children and infants away from their loving families, and more often than not.
The Jedi were
Stephen, that's why I'm. That's
yes, and they.
Not to mention,
they also.
Go ahead, Orange.
Go ahead.
Okay.
They do acknowledge it. That the whole baby snatchers thing. And that is one of the things that the Jedi have often fought against, because yes, they have taken children who are Force sensitive from parents, but also what they don't acknowledge is that after a while they stopped doing it, or they only started doing it if the parents were willing to let their kids go.
Okay.
So yes, I understand. I know your argument very well.
Is that if you look at the films and you look at Vader when he was Vader, I'm not talking about when he was Anakin. I'm talking about when he was Vader and not under orders from the Emperor, but because I still think that whole killing the younglings thing, that was an order from the Emperor. But anyway, because none of them were innocent. Had to wipe them all out. Show no mercy. Do what must be done, Lord Vader. Okay, but if you look at the films 4, 5, and 6. He never did anything evil. He didn't. His own daughter. He didn't even know that was his daughter. Number one, he didn't, and that's a whole other argument of how could he not know that was his daughter. But maybe he would have felt.
Okay.
Actually, that's explained.
But he tried to.
He's imposing. Okay, Stephen. He's imposing the will of a tyrannical of government that has stripped away the rights and privileges of its citizenry. Not to mention, has instituted massive discriminatory regulations against alien races in the Empire.
And the freedom.
He willingly did it.
Evil. He
was a willing participant.
Yes,
he was there when Alderaan was destructed. Like I said before, he didn't do anything to stop it.
Although it was Tarkin who gave the order.
You're not going to let me answer.
Go on.
I'm going to let you answer, Stephen. By all means, please.
No, go ahead. I get what you're saying, but at the same time, you call the Empire tyrannical.
Yes.
They were. Palpatine said, "At last we shall have peace."
Yeah, well, I'm a libertarian, so to me, he is absolutely diabolically evil.
Okay, but you ask any jihadists in the Middle East, they'll all tell you that in America is the great Satan. So, I mean, it's all a matter of point of view. It's all a matter of point of view.
There you go. There you go. That's the thing. George Lucas himself, if I may, George Lucas himself, if you watch these movies with the audio commentary, which I have done multiple times, George Lucas says Palpatine does not think of himself as evil. He actually believes in what he is doing. So, and as Palpatine says, good is a point of view. But what the motives are behind them, that is the key thing. The motives behind him giving the orders to Anakin, him killing or him imposing his will over others, all of that are the motives of a person who is truly selfish and who wants power and will do everything and anything in order to wipe out those in his way.
Right.
It's actually explained in the book, the difference between, or what you got to learn when you are immersing yourself in the dark side is you can take anything you want at the expense of those in your way.
Might is right. Yeah.
What I'm getting at is it's all a matter of point of view. I mean, Thanos thought he was the good guy. He was doing the right thing.
Yeah. I can understand that. Yeah, because
all evil thinks that they are the good.
Yeah. The Sith think that it's in service to the dark side.
But I'm
it's selfless to them.
What I'm getting at is what did Vader do of his own volition in 4, 5, and 6 that was ever evil? He protected Leia from getting executed. He kept saying she may be used for her. You know, he even protected her. He didn't do anything evil.
It was not. Yes, but it was not out of. It was not out of
benevolence.
It wasn't.
Yeah, exactly. It was not benevolence that was leading him to that.
I don't think he wanted to kill her. I don't think he really wanted to kill her.
I think he knew that she would. He wanted the rebel base off her. That's all. He wanted the location.
As soon as she was no longer useful, he would have had no problem letting her die.
I mean, you think in 7,
she was a means to an end.
You think in 6 and 7, he couldn't have taken Luke out with his lightsaber like that? He protected that boy.
He wasn't protecting him.
In 6 is no longer bad.
6 or 5 happened the way it did. He had one goal in mind in Episode 5. Vader did. To turn his son and help him and his son to kill the Emperor.
Right.
Precisely. One thing to continue the cycle of the Sith.
It was not to rule the galaxy as father and son, like he said. He was saying that in order to push Luke toward him. Pull Luke toward him.
No.
This is from George Lucas himself, from the audio commentary. Everything he did in Episode 5 was out of pure selfishness. It was not connect with his son.
It was selfishness, but it was his only way to stay alive. Remember that Sidious said that the dark side of the Force is a pathway to many things that people would see as unnatural. He knew how to keep Vader. That suit was not keeping Vader alive. You know that, right? It was
actually, it was
actually that's a life support suit.
That's a life support suit, Stephen.
It was, but
it walking iron lung.
When he said to his son on Endor, "You don't understand the power of the dark side. I must obey my master." He had no choice because the minute he threw his master over the rail, he died. His master was keeping him alive.
I see where you're coming from. Yeah, the suit was keeping him alive, but it wouldn't keep any ordinary person alive. It was the will of the foot. It's the will of his will with the dark side. It was that was keeping him alive, similar to Darth Sion.
And Stephen, you're forgetting one big point here. No, it wasn't Sidious that was keeping him alive. It was that machinery plus his own will and his power in the dark side that was keeping Anakin / Vader alive. And when his suit gets damaged by all that Force lightning, that was a crap ton of Force lightning that was coursing through Vader's body. It severely damaged the suit.
If he had held on to his hate, he would have lived even through that lightning. But he let go of his hate, so he died immediately.
Essentially, yeah. And
that's how he survived Mustafar.
That whole line of "you don't know the power of the," because he was like, "Come with me."
That's because that's a purely mental subject, or that's what's known as mental subjugation. He believes or Palpatine has always manipulated Vader and Anakin, and he continued to do so even after Anakin and Vader were in that suit. He basically made Vader dependent on him, not through keeping him alive with the Force, but he kept on feeding him a bunch of bullshit in order to keep him loyal, because he realized that he would never be able to find anyone as half as strong as Vader was in the Force, even with those suits and injuries.
It plays back to Ambassador, what me and you. Oh, I'll let Sci-Fi make his point first. Go
okay, yeah, I mean, the Emperor Sidious, he lied to Vader, to Anakin his whole time, really. He said you killed Padme when really he didn't. You to unleash the dark side more inside of him. He kept him purposely, basically dependent on him in that suit and everything. He kept on feeding him lies and everything, all to manipulate. Like you say, he's the master manipulator. Palpatine is, So he knew, that eventually, yes, another Skywalker would eventually be the one that takes over his spot.
Actually, Palpatine didn't know about another Skywalker.
So yeah, Palpatine never knew about the twins.
So
he thought they had died.
The idea that Vader fulfilled the prophecy.
Oh,
the Chosen One? Yeah, eventually.
Because, he did. Except when Disney took over, then they made it so he didn't.
This is one time I'll say this. To hell with Disney's canon. It doesn't count.
Exactly.
Period. Okay, we have kind of gone off on a bit.
Oh, okay.
No, it's all related.
Go ahead, Rogue.
What is related?
I was going to say, remember when you were on my podcast, as I mentioned how Sidious is not a good Sith, really. He's very selfish. I know Stephen mentioned he's selfish, but his is not in service to the dark side. It's only in service to himself. He loses his way. And it kind of all plays into that Vader being kept in that suit. Him, like Orange had said, feeding him a load of crap. He doesn't make Vader strong enough to take him on one-on-one. So yeah, to me, like,
he keeps him weak.
Yeah, he's not a good Sith. He relies too much on technology as well.
I'm sure that Vader resented him. I'm sure Vader hated him.
Yeah,
like
he did.
Vader's a better Sith.
Yeah. He would.
In Episode 3's novel, it explains very clearly he hates him, but he also needs him because he's the only one that accepts him at that point.
Until Luke comes along, yes. But once Luke is known, then he's immediately after Luke instead of Vader. He basically tosses Vader to the side because, yes, he wants Vader to turn his son because he knows that relationship works the best.
Right.
But not accurate.
But all in the back of his mind, he's like, yes, once he is turned, then I'm going to dispose of you just like that, basically.
Well, it was only after Vader made the recommendation to turn him, because at first, Palpatine wanted Luke dead. He wanted him destroyed. Because he realized that he was a great threat. He was the one responsible for destroying the Death Star.
I think he foresaw that he would destroy
Vader. He couldn't control Luke the way he controlled Vader. Vader was
exactly
the best thing that ever happened to Palpatine was when Vader got hurt by Obi-Wan. That was the best thing that could happen because a full power Vader. If Vader had not had that injury on Mustafar and he had been full power Vader, Palpatine wouldn't have lasted long. He said
the thing is, he was plotting to kill him. He was already plotting to kill him.
He said to Padme as Vader, when he was already Vader, he said to Padme, we can take out the Emperor. We can make things the way we want.
Yeah, that was a plan that was already formed.
Yeah.
So if you read the Episode 3 novel, or when Palpatine contacts Vader on Mustafar, he says, I sense a disturbance in the Force, and Anakin's blowing it off. He's like, disturbance or danger, or you're in danger. Danger of getting kissed to death. But when the transmission ends, he's like, you better prepare yourself, Master, because I am a disturbance in the Force. He was talking to himself. He was already planning to kill Palpatine because he already had a measure of Palpatine's power.
So he was going to take out the evil guy.
Well,
as soon as everything was said and done, he was going to kill Palpatine.
Was it going to be as soon as everything was said and done, or was it going to be in service to the ruler too?
So
like
speculate.
When he learned all he could.
Okay, so real quick, speculate for me. Follow me down this path. If in an alternate universe, let's do a J.J. Abrams and create an alternate wormhole. If Vader had not gotten injured, let's say he had defeated Obi-Wan on Mustafar and he was not injured. He did, the high ground didn't matter. You don't know, you underestimate my power, and he'd flipped over and cut Obi-Wan in half, and he was fine. And he went back to Coruscant and killed his master. A reign under Vader as Emperor. Do you really think that would have been worse than Palpatine?
Far worse.
Well, actually, there have been several.
Because the thing is, there's a video game that shows that.
Yeah, the Revenge of the Sith video game. Yeah, the Revenge of the Sith video game actually has an alternate ending where you have an alternate version of the fight where Anakin actually does kill Obi-Wan. And there have been several channels. Star Wars Theory has done it. I think Stupendous Wave has done it. I think even maybe Generation Tech has done it, where they've talked about alternate timeline where Anakin does kill Palpatine. And I think Padme survives. He takes Padme to the medical facilities there on Coruscant. She delivers the children. I can't remember if she survives or she dies in the process or whatever. But basically, well, no, there's another version. I think what Star Wars Theory did, where he makes the Obi-Wan escapes with Padme, and the basically Vader kills Palpatine, goes into a rage. Okay. Rogue, you have a good night, bud. Thank you for coming. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me.
Take it easy.
Right, see you guys later. Bye.
Peace. So, okay.
I just don't see Vader if he had taken out Palpatine. I mean, I know what the fan theories are and all that, but I'm saying realistically, if you look at the character, I really don't think. I mean, he wasn't. The fact that he was crying on Mustafar after he killed all those people that were working for the Separatists, I really don't. He hated going down the dark side. I think he would have flipped right back to the light again. He would have pulled a Revan real quick. Or Luke. I mean, Luke went to the dark side when he attacked his father. I mean, Yoda went to the dark side.
Yoda did it to prove a point.
Right. But I'm saying that I think that at the minute he killed Palpatine, he would have flipped back to the light and been great and been a better actor. I don't see Vader as an evil character. I never have.
Well, and Stephen, that's
I understand your.
I do too.
I understand his point of view.
I do too.
I understand his point of view. But it's Vader's selfishness that had already taken root by the time he even went to Mustafar. When he has already gone to Mustafar, he is so far gone. Yes, there is that moment that he sheds that tear. Yes, it is him reflecting that what he has done is seriously demented and very heinous. But but that is also his acknowledgement that he has gone too far, and there's really no point. Or there's no turning back.
The line during the fight when he said the Jedi, the Sith are evil, and he said, "From my point of view, the Jedi are evil." That lends weight to my argument. He didn't consider himself evil.
That's because the evil rarely does.
Well, and here's the thing, though: good and evil in the Star Wars universe. I'm not saying necessarily in our own world, but it's. Obi-Wan's line is a perfect representation when he's talking to Luke there on Dagobah in Return of the Jedi. You're going to have to realize, Luke, that many of the truths that we cling to rely very heavily on our own point of view.
Yes, exactly.
So, and everything. And that is one of the great things about Star Wars. A lot of it is a morality tale. What is good? What is evil? And in some instances, yes, it is.
I mean, some of the things that I did were pretty messed up,
I wholeheartedly agree. But and here's the thing, kind of getting us back on course, because we've gone on a big rabbit trail, but it was a good rabbit trail. Don't misunderstand me.
It was, but it was along the same lines.
But here's the thing, it kind of ties into this whole the shift of Ahsoka's perspective on the Jedi's position in the galaxy. In particular, in that second to last episode, when she's like, ever since I've been a Padawan, I've been a soldier. The Jedi were supposed to be
peacekeepers.
Keepers of the peace, not soldiers. The exact same. She's echoing the exact same line that Mace Windu said to Palpatine there in his office in Attack of the Clones.
Yep.
The Jedi were supposed to be keepers of the peace, not soldiers. But she's been nothing but a soldier all this time. And for a young woman and everything, for a teenager, to be embroiled in galaxy-wide conflict, for their life to be constantly at risk and in danger, and having to make all of these heavy decisions that put millions of lives at risk.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very difficult for a person who's more or less spent their entire life into the chat neo sci-fi. I can see that point and everything. I can see where you're coming from, because I have studied the history of the Vietnam War and everything in a lot of respects. And Lucas actually used a lot of themes and a lot of issues from that particular conflict in the Star Wars universe. And Kathia Star, good evening, ma'am. Good to see you. Thank you for popping in. You have a good night. I appreciate it.
Much of Star Wars is actually very allegorical to real world events.
Yes, I would wholeheartedly agree. But here's the thing about Ahsoka, and it kind of goes back to what we were discussing in terms of Anakin and Obi-Wan and Palpatine and the Jedi and everything. She really gets her eyes opened by the Martez sisters, whether you like them or hate them, either way. That whole situation that she gets herself mixed up in makes her realize the real life struggles that people outside of the war are having to deal with from day to day, just trying to scrape by, just to trying to get by in this galaxy. And you've got war going on, and you've got people's perspective on the Jedi being changed. And here's the interesting thing about the war. Palpatine orchestrated this war for numerous reasons, and one of them was, and Nerdlot and Sci-Fi, I want you to weigh in on this. Palpatine's scheme was to use this war to change the public perception of the Jedi. What do y'all think?
Definitely.
Yes.
I mean, that was his. He's been doing that ever since he became chancellor. It was from ordering the getting the army in the first place was just the start of laying the trap that he would turn the public against the Jedi, and make them be basically the bad guys instead of him, really. But
and there's actually a contradiction too, if I may. Season 2 of Clone Wars, you see, specifically the Zilla Beast arc, when the Zilla Beast is on Coruscant, he sees Palpatine giving a speech on one of the things, and Palpatine is specifically addressing that there are rumors that the Jedi have perpetuated the war, or may have been the start of this war. I will not stand for these rumors to persist. So in a way, or in the movies, not the show, but the movies, he was slowly twisting the perceptions of the people against the Jedi. And that is, and the people would then basically fall for his BS and whatnot. But in the show, it shows that for a time, he was willing to let the wheels turn, and he was also willing to support the Jedi as well, basically showing a united front.
Yeah.
So in some ways, it kind of got contradictory, but still, it was effective.
It was an end to his means, basically.
Yeah.
Is why he allowed that, because he couldn't obviously go straight from being a chancellor to incorporating the Galactic Empire just like that. You know,
Yeah.
he
No,
had he had to, bide his time basically, and kind of put in the hatred and the deception and all that he plotted basically in there to allow the tables to be turned basically, and for the public opinion to sway from the senators that they had trusted in, and especially the Jedi that they had trusted, and of course once Mace and the Jedi, basically came in to arrest him. I mean, that's all the proof that he needed right there,
Yep.
There was a bigger action in the novel of Episode 3 where he actually recorded that entire interaction. Also, if you pay attention to the Clone Wars, Masameda, Big Horn, as I used to call him.
Yeah.
He wanted Amidala dead. He actually, because when she had replaced Bail to give that speech before the Senate, the full Senate, which actually won her that night to defeat a bill that would have brought more clones in. He's like, what are you going to do about this? And he's like, for now, nothing. We're not at the level where we can do anything about it, so we're going to let the wheels of democracy continue to turn.
Yeah,
but he was still astounded that Amidala won the night.
Right, but even with setbacks, and that was a setback, he knew all he had to do was just give it more time. And plot.
Palpatine had contingencies for his own contingencies.
Exactly.
Yeah, the man was, and I've made this point previously, and the Palpatine was a master strategist. The man was a political and a psychological, and I will say it even, obviously, a genius in terms of all his abilities within politics, within psychology, and within the Force. The man knew his stuff.
Right.
And I know for a lot.
And in a way, his turning the people against the Jedi basically mirrors him turning Anakin towards him as well.
Precisely. Well, and here's the interesting thing, and you get bits and pieces of this in the Clone Wars, the show and everything. You see the relationship between Anakin and Palpatine at certain points during the show. And here's the thing, and I think this was a very masterful stroke and everything of the show itself. Palpatine was honestly the only one that was from a certain perspective, played even-handedly with Anakin. He was honest with him. He was candid with him. And though he was, to an extent, manipulating him, at the same time, Palpatine was the only person, except for maybe Obi-Wan and Ahsoka, that Anakin implicitly trusted. I mean, this was a guy who had basically taken him under his wing from when he was a young kid in the Jedi Order. And you see this in the comics as well, the Clone Wars era comics, where they would be interacting with each other there on Coruscant or what have you. And that's one of the things I love about the Clone Wars television show, and including season 7, obviously, is what we've been talking about for a better part of this stream. It really fleshes out all the relationships that are established in the movies and the books and everything. And you see the dynamic of all these characters and how they are confronting all of these different situations they are coming to terms with. In a lot of ways, the Clone Wars was also an emotional war internally for all the people that were involved in it. From the Jedi, the clones, the general populace, everybody. It was a great opportunity to see how a society and several different cultures within that society deal with galactic war or conflict on a massive scale. And you see in some instances, you see the real consequences of all of that conflict going on in the galaxy. Mm-hmm. And then it boils down to this last season. And you see the weight of that conflict and foreknowledge weighing on Maul even. Because in the I think it's in episode 10, he's hysterical. Absolutely hysterical, trying to warn them, you are all going to die, you're all going to burn, everything you know is going to come to an end. And I would say, honestly, one of the, in a lot of ways, another tragic figure within the Clone Wars is Maul. Now, am I saying he's sympathetic? No, I'm not saying he's necessarily sympathetic, but he himself was used and then cast aside. He says it himself in the last couple of episodes of this season. He was used and then cast aside by Sidious for eventually Dooku and then ultimately Anakin.
He's literally half the man he used to be.
Yes.
Yeah.
He is. And it's all because of his he's in service to Sidious, his master. Mm-hmm. I mean, eventually does he grow resentment towards Sidious just like Vader does or / Anakin does? Yeah, he does. But you see it in that particular episode where Palpatine comes to Mandalore and he confronts he confronts Maul and he confronts Savage Opress. And you see the level of contempt that Sidious has for Maul, like, oh, I see you survived. Guess what? I don't care. I've moved beyond you, but apparently you have not moved beyond me. And Maul's like, I built all this for you. And he's like, no, you have made yourself a rival, and I'm going to destroy you for it. And then, of course, you don't see this on screen, but I guess it's in the Son of Dathomir comic that the Mandalorians that are loyal to Maul go and rescue him from his confinement and everything and bring him back to Mandalore.
Which was actually a ploy of Sidious himself, again.
Yeah, totally.
He actually allowed Maul to escape and to see how far it would go and whatnot. But yes, sorry.
No, it's fine. To Orange, your point was,
Yeah, and when he actually went there, he's like, he was actually most impressed. He meant that when he said, I'm most impressed to see that you have survived your injuries. But when he looked at Savage, and he's like, it's unfortunate that you're attempting to deceive me, because that was Maul's intent, to deceive him. He wasn't actually trying to go back to Sidious. He wanted to kill Dooku, yes. Because Dooku was a threat to him as well. But he did not build the crime syndicate to get back in Sidious's good graces. Because when he sensed his master, he was horrified. He was terrified.
Yeah.
It's like,
and rightfully so.
He's like, oh shit, he's here. So basically Maul had to think on his feet. Another thing, and this is actually explained in the comics or a book, I can't remember exactly what one, but that fight between Savage and Maul and Palpatine, they were about to kill him. Palpatine was almost killed. If it wasn't for the fact that Maul took a beat before his next attack, before he got force shoved, he would have actually killed, or Palpatine wouldn't have recovered in that split second. Because you could actually see that Palpatine was really tired in that battle. He's like, oh. And it was in that one beat that he got his second wind and actually took it, or everybody knows how it went.
Yeah, pretty much. So, final thoughts on let's see, this last season, and then there's another topic I want to touch on briefly before we close out. So, final thoughts on season 7.
My final thoughts are, it started out good. and this is my subjective opinion,
Yeah.
the middle arc was its weakest point,
Mm-hmm.
and it finished very strongly. The last episode, even from an objective standpoint, was freaking brilliantly done. Mm-hmm. And this is coming from somebody who has been very critical of Disney. I mean, believe me, I do not like Disney and how they have treated Star Wars. But I can admit and put aside my bias to acknowledge when something was done well. Now,
yes.
The first couple episodes, or 3 episodes even, of the final arc or of the Siege of Mandalore,
mm-hmm.
it's because I can't shake it from my from my own knowledge of episode 3 and the timeline and the inconsistencies, but still it went out on a good note. Yes. So other than the stuff that we've already talked about, the continuity mistakes and the editing problems, it was good. And it was interesting. Now, when I go to rewatch season 7, and I will, I'm going to only watch 8 episodes. I'm only going to watch 8 episodes. I'm not going to, because honestly, I
don't blame you.
The Martez sister ones, it's like, why would you have your hair like that, first off? And, I mean, it looks like a cow literally took a dump on her forehead. I'm sorry, it does. It's like, what's with the hair?
I gotta agree with you, Orange Head. I got to. Sir Nerd Lot, Sci-Fi, Steven, your final thoughts on season 7.
Season 7 was excellent. I love how they wrapped up the arc with Ahsoka and wrapped up all of the basically the entire series. Mm-hmm. And I can't wait to see Rosario Dawson crush it as a in the Mandalorian.
That was the next thing we're going to talk about here in a few minutes. Yeah. Sir Nerdalot?
Yep. Whoop. I absolutely loved season 7. Middle arc, definitely weakest. I wish they would have had Ahsoka fall a little bit further and not find her place as quick as she did. I thought that would have established more of a growth through to the final. Final 3 episodes are absolutely brilliant. The last episode, some of the imagery in that episode is just absolutely beautiful. I go back to the helmet with Darth Vader reflecting in the shield. It's just completely beautiful. And Shattered was probably my favorite episode just because of the turn of Rex on Ahsoka. Is so, man, it's just chilling watching him. He's shaking, his hands are shaking, and he's trying to spit out that go investigate fives. Go investigate fives. He's trying to spit that out before, then he finally can't stop. And, really beautifully done. And I guess we're getting ready to talk about more here soon.
Yeah. Sci-Fi?
Yeah, I agree with what everybody else has said. Yeah, that it ended great. The middle was, kind of boring.
It dragged. It dragged.
Lack of better terms.
Yeah.
And it kind of got me. Not really.
Kind of makes you want to go back and rewatch the entire series.
I don't know about that, but eventually, I guess I will.
Yeah,
but
I'm not saying
I did that before season 7 came out.
yeah, but
I just binged.
I like the whole Maul and Ahsoka interaction towards the end. Thought that was very well done. Their fight scene was very well done.
Sci-fi, I don't know if you know this. I think Orange, I'm about to beat you to the punch. That entire fight scene was actually done with motion capture. That was Ray Park himself. that was doing the mocap fighting, I think it might have been Ashley Eckstein or somebody else standing in for her. And then they incorporated the motion capture into the animation.
Yeah. Like I said, it was. Yeah, to me that was the best part.
That was a beautiful fight. That was actually the best fight out of everything. Yeah. And believe me, it's a very close second with the Asajj Maul and Palpatine fight.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. So, Stephen had to bow out for a second. Had to go see a man about a dog, to use an old phrase. For myself, yeah, I think my favorite moment, and there are so many in this final season, I think my favorite moment, and I think it was I mentioned it, that moment, or it was one of you that mentioned this, that moment when Rex hesitates and he's fighting against the programming. He's fighting against that order.
Yeah.
And you see him, you see his hand shaking with his helmet in his hand. And the other moment is where he's like, I would be impressed if they weren't trying to kill us. And then you see him go on that rant and everything saying, those guys down there are wanting to kill us. And
they're my brothers, but they want to kill us.
They're my brothers, but they're wanting to kill us. And she takes his helmet off and he sheds a tear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's another great point. Yeah.
You know,
even Ahsoka is like, we can't kill them.
He's like, yeah, I get what you're saying, but at the same time, they don't care. They're going to shoot us on sight. And she's like, well, I have an idea. She's like, they may want to kill us, but I'm not willing to kill them. There's still that small part of her that's still adhering to the Jedi code, even though when she resurfaces in Rebels and she's confronting Vader. So, Sit Room, good to have you here, bud. I hope you enjoyed the stream. You have a good night and take it easy. And may the Force be with you. So, but yeah, you know, that was a great moment and everything. And, you know, I think by and large it ties, as we've said, it has tied together all the parts of this whole series into a nice little Vader-shaped bow on top. So, because ultimately the Clone Wars was about the formation of the birth of Darth Vader. It was a crucible in which Vader was formed, unfortunately. So, well, there's one other matter I did want to discuss, and there's a couple of things I want to discuss in terms of everything. It's news that's come out relatively recently. I wanted to get y'all's thoughts on it, and that is the inclusion of Temuera Morrison as Mr. Boba Fett, or as he's known in Robot Chicken, Bob A. Fett, in Mandalorian Season 2. So, y'all's thoughts on that, and then I'll give my own.
I'll go ahead and start.
Please.
I think it's good. I just wonder what the story is going to be. It's all about the story. It's all about what the story is going to be. Now, if Ahsoka is going to be in Season 2, there's still some speculation of whether or not he is going to be playing one character or two characters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I would much rather see him as Captain Rex or Commander Rex now, or Rogue Rex.
Yeah.
We do see Rex in Episode 6, so
yeah,
they would have to put that big or they'd have to put the Santa beard on Temuera to be Rex.
Well, I mean, there's razors in space.
Yeah, there is. That's true. My thoughts on Temuera Morrison coming in as Boba Fett.
Yeah.
I'm on the fence about it. I mean, don't get me wrong. I like The Mandalorian for what it is.
Yeah.
But for them to bring in Fett, this just screams of just banking on nostalgia.
Yeah.
Which, how did that work for them with Episode 9? I'm just saying. It didn't.
Yeah. No,
it didn't. To basically answer everybody's question, it didn't. But
yeah.
Saying it's
for them to bring in Fett, and I am going to blaspheme here, folks. not in the way you're thinking, Ambassador.
No, I know what you're doing. I get you.
I will fight George Lucas to death on this one thing. I do not care what George Lucas says. Boba Fett and Jango Fett are Mandalorian. I do not care what the Clone Wars says. I do not care what George Lucas says. I am a Karen Travis Mandalorian fan. And Jango Fett was Mandalore.
I agree.
And Boba Fett was also Mandalore after. But if you're going to have Boba Fett coming back with Mandalorian armor look and whatnot, I'm wondering how Din Djarin's going to freaking take this. Well, I'm wondering how any other Mandalorian is going to take that.
Yeah.
Jango was Mandalorian, yes, but Boba was a clone. I mean,
he's still Mandalorian.
Yes, but he was raised to be a Mandalorian. He even took his manhood trial at 13.
So he's Mandalorian through and through. Stephen, the question I posed to everybody was your thoughts on Tamori Morrison returning as Boba Fett for season 2 of The Mandalorian.
That's fantastic. I mean, it's fan service. It's fan service.
I can see where some people may make that argument, but we don't know enough yet as to what Boba Fett's part in season 2 is going to be, because we do get a hint, a very slight hint, that it's Boba Fett that walks up to that dead Imperial officer or researcher or whoever it was that the Mandalorian goes after.
Ming-Na Wen. Yeah.
Ming-Na Wen. Dang, she's a good actress. She's been so much good stuff. So she's been in such good stuff. I mean, both live action and animation, both.
What I wonder is, how does that Moff have the
dark saber?
Yeah,
I don't think
he killed Sabine Wren.
He's not Mandalorian.
No, he's not. But
he killed Sabine Wren.
Well, she gave it to Bo-Katan, I thought.
That's the only way that they could have done it.
Bo-Katan had it last, right? The dark saber.
No, Sabine Wren had it last.
Wren had it last.
I thought Sabine gave it
to he's right. He's right. Yeah. She gave it to Bo-Katan.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
she gave it to Bo-Katan, so he would have had to have killed Bo-Katan.
I don't remember.
Okay.
Yeah, she did.
That was in Rebels.
That was in Rebels. She specifically gave it to Bo-Katan. I think it's great that Tamora Morrison is playing, since he played Jango Fett. He should be playing Boba Fett. They're just saying should be the same person, in the first place, since they're, it's an exact clone of himself and everything.
Has the dark saber? Do you think we're going to get to see an epic lightsaber battle?
Between him and Ahsoka.
That was established and set up.
Yeah,
that was basically teased that we are going to see a lightsaber battle, and that is, I mean, Ahsoka they're saying she's coming in for season 2, so I'm guessing that there's going to be a lightsaber battle between those two,
and that's possible,
or even between Din Djarin, because
that's going to be
Beskar, the Mandalorian armor, Beskargam, which is the armor, but Beskar, the metal,
yes.
Or if you really want to get into more of that, Beskad, which is a Mandalorian sword, you could actually use that to go get into a fight with a lightsaber, because a lightsaber cannot cut through Beskar unless it is prolonged against Beskar for a long time.
Yeah,
it's very lightsaber resistant.
Yeah, extremely lightsaber resistant. So.
I'm wondering if Jango's armor on Kamino was actually made of Beskar, or whether it was just another metal.
I'm not sure, honestly. It looks like it could have been.
It was Beskar. A different metal because they established.
Okay, go ahead.
It wasn't Beskar because they.
Well, because
George killed it. Anyway,
basically, I mean, Windu just
also that too.
Well, you have to remember Windu was able to get underneath the helmet and cut off his head. So, I'm not sure what the metallurgy on Jango's armor was. So it may not have been Beskar. Well, speaking of, was it Dur? That's possible too.
Do you think Baby Yoda's going to say anything in season 2.
Okay, and here's
sure. Why
And
not?
are we going to find out what race he is? Are they finally going to reveal?
No.
I
No.
doubt it. I doubt it because
No. I'm sorry. I have to. I'm
Will
sorry.
he at least get a name?
George Lucas is yes, they're going to name him his name.
Because he's the
They're
target.
never going to name his species or his homeworld because that
And
was
honestly,
George Lucas's one stipulation.
Mhm.
If Disney releases an origin of Yoda's species, they completely forfeit the rights all the way back to George Lucas.
And that's a big thing. Yeah, because that was Lucas's
That is one thing that he said. If you screw this up, or if you do this,
you're toast.
it's back to me, and you are never getting it again.
What I find interesting is, are we going to see, because Mandalorian takes place after episode 7, so it's between episodes.
No, it's 6.
6.
6
Between
and 7.
6 and 7.
It's between those two.
Are we going to see the death of Ahsoka Tano?
OG Star Wars doesn't
I'd say
think
it's
so,
a-
and I
it's-
tend to agree with her.
I agree as well. You know what? I'm sorry,
We hear her voice.
but that doesn't necessarily mean she's dead.
Oh, no. She's
Yeah, because Filoni
Doesn't-
actually basically said, or he responded to that after episode 9 came out. He actually went to Instagram with a drawing of Ahsoka and Gandalf the Grey, or Gandalf the White. Don't worry, everybody thought I was dead too.
I'm sorry. I don't think she dies.
we hear
I think she's basically going to be an avatar or a light side force goddess. I agree with OG Star Wars because Filoni is just too freaking. Ahsoka is Filoni's pet, basically.
Well, it's his baby.
And-
He created the character, and he's got an emotional tie to her, just like Lucas has got an emotional tie to Yoda.
You're telling
So,
me,
and I can.
Yeah.
you're telling me that everybody that talked to Rey when they were saying, "Get up, Rey," all of those people were dead except Ahsoka. She was the only one who wasn't.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't think
That's
it's beyond
exactly
the reason.
what I'm saying.
I'm saying the same thing.
I think
This book
I think
clarifies
she's
it
dead.
too.
I don't care about that book. I care even less about the
Neither
movie.
do I. I want to burn it, but I'm going to send it to a friend in Washington instead, and hope she burns it when she's done reading it.
Yeah, Rogue Darfur is like, you guys are still going? Nice. I'm like, yeah, we're still going.
got 2 hours.
You know, here's the thing.
Yeah, the whole Palpatine as a clone thing also kind of turned me off.
Yeah, I talked.
For-
Orange
for
Hat was the Orange Hat was there the night I eviscerated this movie with him and a few other people and everything. The night after we went and saw. That was a fun stream right there.
Yes, it was, and I'm telling you right now, the explanation they give in this thing,
Crap.
in that thing that they give, it makes no sense.
What
They
book is
retconned episode 6
Yep.
What
with
yeah.
this book, with this one book.
Yep.
They retconned the movie episode 6.
This is where Star Wars ended.
Right. Because they're saying
Exactly.
he was a
This is
clone
where
in
Star Wars
6.
ended, right in front of the
No,
poster that's
they're
behind
saying
my
that
cat.
there's possibly saying, or they suggest that he is a clone in 6,
Right.
but they're saying that when he was going down that shaft, he
Oh.
flung his consciousness across the universe to Exegol. I'm sorry, that makes no
Oh,
logical
crap.
sense. That makes no
Okay.
logical sense because let's say I'm going to ask Sci-Fi and Steve, how long was he screaming when he was falling down that shaft?
all the way
Yeah.
down. Exploded.
All
the way down.
Yep.
My
Now-
avatar says everything.
Now, when he was falling, was he still using Force Lightning?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Here's the thing: he screamed until you saw the puff of smoke, the purple light, and everything. That could have been him leaving his body. That does make a little bit of sense.
Yep.
Nah, and that's one way to try to explain it, but it
here's the-
doesn't work because when you leave your body, it's not like the essence transfer. They killed Legends. They made it Legends for a reason. So their essence transfer thing, they didn't explain it well. So when he leaves his body, I'm sorry, when your body has its consciousness leave it or your life leave it, it automatically ceases to function. You're not going to be using Force lightning. You're not going to be screaming.
I mean, they basically
the moment he died, he would be able to see. Bane established that dark side users can be Force ghosts as well. So his Force ghost could have gone to Exegol. It's very, very.
That wasn't a Force ghost that you saw.
Because it explains it in this. He didn't die. He flung his consciousness, his spirit, without dying, to Exegol.
They're even retconning it. Yeah, they're even retconning it all the way back to Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, when he's specifically talking to Anakin about the powers of bringing someone back from the dead. And all that whole scene that you see where it's revealed the Darth Vader mask kind of in the imagery there and everything, but they're saying even that scene was meant to say that he was going to bring himself back to life, or through clones or whatever,
That's how I would have written it. I would have written it, because it all would have made a lot of sense. And how I would, if you gave me the ability to write this thing, the way I would have written it is that Snoke was indeed Plagueis. And Plagueis brought him back using the Force, the midi-chlorians, to bring Palpatine back, and then Palpatine had him taken out.
Well, Stephen, for heaven's sakes, how it should have ended the channel and everything. They did a short on this where they say that Snoke is Plagueis. You have Rey say, and thank you for explaining your backstory, Darth Plagueis.
Right.
If a parody channel can do a better job of writing a movie than the actual company that owns the rights, I mean, for crying out loud.
And the fact,
and to the chat, to the chat, 2 minute 2. Good evening, sir. Thank you for popping in. We're just we're shooting the bull about Star Wars a little bit. We're talking about Mandalorian. We're talking about Rise of Skywalker and everything.
It's kind of dissolved into everything, pretty much. But
my head hurt. They revealed that she was a Palpatine. My head hurt.
Yeah,
Stephen. I'll tell you the same thing I told Orange Hat and everybody else that night that was on that stream. And it's the same story I tell everybody. The only thing I really remember about the night we went to see, well, there's 3 different things I remember about going to see Rise of Skywalker. 1, I was with my wife and 2 of our closest friends from college. 2, we went out to dinner afterwards and completely eviscerated the movie ourselves, and then we did some retail therapy after that. And 3, I had a massive headache, and I got up and walked out after Palpatine was killed.
It was good. Like, there were a lot of parts of it that were good. Like, I love the fact that they incorporated Leia, how they did that, brought in old footage and made it work. I mean, that was just beautifully done, and it was so expertly done. I love the way they did that, but there were certain, like Kylo dying, Ben dying, that just
that also made no sense. I mean, it makes sense. Him dying makes sense. But the way that they established Force, the way that George Lucas established Force ghosts and spirits and all that,
I can tell Ambassador.
You need to be trained by the Wills, don't you?
Yeah.
So how is Anakin a Force ghost? How is Obi-Wan a Force ghost? How is anybody else after Yoda a freaking Force ghost?
Well, even Han is a Force ghost, basically.
No, he's not.
That was a memory.
It was a memory.
But that was a member berry. That was a member berry that was stuck in Ben's head. That was a member berry. Remember that your dad, who actually loved you and cared about you, but just was kind of screwed up.
I mean, time is irrelevant in another world of the Force. A day could be a century to them, and they could have been trained. That's
very true. But also, you guys haven't heard this. I think Ambassador heard this. When I was at the pre-screening of Rise of Skywalker, when she kissed him after she got brought back, I literally said, "Are you effing kidding me?" out loud. Somebody shushed me, and I'm like, "Shut the F up." And I told that person.
I didn't even stick around for that part.
I didn't have a problem with that. But I really believe that he should have been standing next to her on Tatooine at the end of the film. They shouldn't have killed him. Yes. Although it would have been really hard for her to explain. Oh, by the way, here's Kylo Ren. He's a good guy now. I mean, the Rebels
that movie
never bought that. They would have shot
that
it.
movie, in my opinion, is always going to be an insult to George Lucas's legacy.
Okay, and I'll share this. I've shared this story. Steven, number one sci-fi. Orange, I think you've heard this, but you two I know haven't. This movie behind me, Return of the Jedi, was the last movie that I got to see with me and my mother and my father. We got to see together as a family before my father died in 1983 or 1984, excuse me. And I always tear up, and I have a very deep emotional tie to this movie. Excuse the hell out of me, I'm human. When Luke is burning Anakin's body, I relate to that moment because he's losing a father that he barely knew. I was 7 years old when my father died. I lost a father I barely got a chance to know. He introduced me to Star Wars. He's the reason I love Star Wars as much as I do.
Right.
And the sequel trilogy, and yes, I'm going a little bit of a rant here. The sequel trilogy, what Rian Johnson and J.J. Abrams did, in my perspective, from my point of view, is an insult. It's like them going to my father's grave and taking a giant steaming crap on it. And that includes Kathleen Kennedy. That's like the three of them going. So yeah, if I get very emotional about this about the sequel trilogy, I, in my point of view, am justified. Because they retconned and wrecked Anakin's entire story arc from episode 1 to episode 6 for their poorly conceived fan fiction bull crap.
Oh yeah, and what they
I
did
don't
to
care.
Luke.
When what they did to Luke was just as bad, if not worse. Now I have pretty much put that all past me. I have moved on from it, and what have you. And well, I still have my random outbursts, but by and large, I have let go of. Unlike what Anakin at a point couldn't do, I have let go of my hate of the sequel trilogy. If you like it, you're more than welcome to do so. I'm not going to tell you can't.
Yeah, neither am I.
Well, you're
entitled to.
You're going to hate my film.
But, no, I'm not.
Well,
because
I have to see it first.
Because Stephen, you are a fan. You love the world. You love this universe that George Lucas made for us to play in. So no, I'm not going to hate your interpretation of the lore because you are a fan. In my perspective, Rian Johnson and J.J. Abrams, they were a couple of mercenary directors that were brought in to do this fan fiction piece of crap. They didn't understand the universe. They didn't understand the characters. They didn't understand Jack Diddley's squad. They couldn't have done a more hatchet job to this universe than anybody else I know.
Yeah, I mean, I remember specifically going to the movie in 1977, and I had to wait because I come from a large family. I have 5 brothers and 2 sisters. So we had to wait until it was basically at the dollar show before I saw it. But yeah, I specifically remember going to the first Star Wars, and at that time it was called simply Star Wars.
Star Wars.
Not a New Hope, not Episode 4 for crying out loud.
Just Star Wars.
Right.
Yeah, just Star Wars.
Yeah.
And just going to see it. And believe me, I do specifically remember the cut scenes that they took out of it, from the Tashi Station scene to Luke missing the first time when throwing the grappling hook to swing across the Death Star chasm, to some other scenes that they took out. I remember those scenes being shown in the theater. Okay.
Well,
I'll tell you a funny story. Want to hear a funny story?
Sure.
I'll tell you a funny story. I was 7 years old. I'm telling my age to everybody now, but I was 7 years old when Star Wars came out. And we went and saw it at a drive-in theater, okay? In my parents' station wagon.
I envy you.
Opening night. opening night.
I envy you.
At a drive-in. No, you will not. You're not going to envy this part because I'm 7 years old and I'm sitting in the back seat. My parents are both in the front seats and I'm in the middle in the back seat, sitting on the bench seat of my parents' station wagon, just like this. I mean, in awe. And we get to the trash compactor scene. And as it starts to close and he's like, 3PO, my father goes, Steven, get down. You can't see this part because he was afraid that they were going to get
crushed.
So I'm 7 years old, cowered down in the back seat, hearing them going, no, and hearing them going, curse my metal body, I wasn't fast enough. And I'm like traumatized, okay? I'm freaking out that what I imagined in my 7-year-old brain was blood and guts going everywhere, them squeezing out. And my dad goes, oh, it's okay, they lived. And I'm like, I was freaking out. Don't do that to a child.
You med to Star Wars Network. Please tell me you're not serious.
I think he's joking because he's old enough to remember a drive-in. Orange Hat.
Oh, okay, good. Thank God.
Orange Hat, I don't know if you're subscribed to 2Med 2, but he's a great channel. You should consider checking out some of his stuff. You should subscribe to his channel.
Because of COVID virus, drive-ins are popping.
What I don't like about YouTube right now is that you can't click on a name and go to their channel anymore.
Yeah, I know. It sucks.
Yeah.
It sucks.
I'm guessing that's because of the AI taking over right now.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. But yeah, 2Med 2 Star Wars Network.
Yeah, you could find mine by looking up The Relationship Life with Stephen Basham.
Yeah.
Or Carpe Nerdium, either one.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
there we go.
But yeah,
and subscribe
to tie this back into something positive and everything, because I know I've kind of gone on a rant here, and I didn't really intend to. In a lot of ways, the animated series and the live-action series that we have gotten from Lucasfilm and everything, I will not acknowledge the other company just to keep anybody from getting triggered. That we've gone from Lucasfilm, I think, by and large, has been a big saving grace for us as Star Wars fans. Because with Clone Wars, with Rebels, I know Rebels is kind of a mixed bag, but by and large, I think it's a good show. It's got good parts to it. It's got some good themes to it.
Wolves.
I didn't like the Disney-fied animation.
And I can understand that. But for me, it's more the story, the characters. That's what I relate to. That's what and everything. Now, Resistance, I didn't even bother with.
I've only seen 4 episodes. I got bored with it. I was like, what the hell is this? I mean, it was,
But, I will give credit where credit is due. Those at Lucasfilm that have been responsible for Clone Wars Season 7 have been responsible for The Mandalorian. And I am going to watch those gallery documentaries that they have on The Mandalorian at some point. Those have been a big saving grace for the Star Wars community. That's something that we can all rally around and say, yes, this is good. And unlike some other folks, I will give Project Luminous a chance. I will give the High Republic project a chance to see what it can be. And I'm hoping it can be something good. But I'm just going to sit here and say and cross my arms with a big frown on my face and say everything sucks. Everything is terrible. No.
You're not going to pull the Rambo?
I'm going to be like I'm going to be like OG Luke Skywalker. I am going to be the eternal optimist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm going to have.
Trust me.
It says
I'm going to give it a chance.
On The Mandalorian, it says that George Lucas has written 9 episodes.
That doesn't surprise me.
It's on IMDb.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me either. I mean, I don't put it past Jon Favreau to actually go to the master himself.
What would 7, 8, and 9 have been like if Jon Favreau and Filoni had made them?
Oh my gosh! Or even if we had gotten
possibly been good.
Or even Colin Trevorrow.
Trevorrow's episode 9. I would have watched that and I would have liked it.
I would have loved to have seen him do episodes 8 and 9. Have JJ. Okay, here's the thing. This is the caveat I will give. Force Awakens set up something that had potential to be good. It really did.
Yes.
But
as
I
part
would
of a
have loved
trilogy,
to
it
have
doesn't
seen,
age.
I would have loved to have seen. I believe you, Stephen. You don't have to show me. I believe you.
Oh,
I
yeah.
believe you, man.
Credits, George Lucas.
Okay.
They
All right.
gave him
Awesome.
9 episodes.
Wasn't there only 8 of Mandalorian?
There were only 8. Yeah.
So obviously he's written some for season
2.
Yeah.
2.
Interesting. Now, you were saying?
Crap, I forgot what I was going to say.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. It's all right. In terms of the High Republic project, I will give it a real. Oh yeah, I would have loved to have seen Colin Trevorrow do 8 and 9. I think that would be honestly better than anything. I know people give Colin Trevorrow flack for the Jurassic World movies. I personally like them. Hey, it's dinosaurs. It's Owen Grady and everything. It's what's his name? Chris Pratt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And those movies I think have been very entertaining. They've introduced some interesting concepts and everything for the Jurassic World universe or Jurassic Park universe, or what you want to term it, the Jurassic universe.
The JU.
The JU.
Do we want to call it Jew or Ja?
Ja.
Ja. Yeah, let's call it Ja. That way we don't get into too much trouble.
Yeah, exactly. So I would have loved to have seen what Colin Trevorrow would have brought to 8 and 9 instead of that hatchet man, Ryan Johnson. And everybody's going to say, boy, Knives Out is so good. I don't give a flying bleep about
Anybody
Knives
who
Out.
says that Ryan Johnson is so good probably had I'm not going to say
Has brain damage?
No, I was going to say something a lot more colorful.
They're drain damaged.
I think they're the people that kept on sucking on Tide Pods and snorting condoms.
So I'm guessing you guys don't like what JJ did with Star Trek either.
Oh no, dude! I actually do like what he did with Star Trek.
Okay,
but I can understand.
I'm not a huge Trekkie,
because
so
the thing is,
I thought it was okay.
actually acknowledged that it was an alternate universe in movie.
Yes,
in movie,
it's an alternate reality. He acknowledged it in the movie. Uhura actually says it, an alternate reality. Yes, and it's like so I can accept that.
The films are gorgeous. I mean, beautiful.
I think.
Yeah, you also see freaking R2-D2 die in Star Trek. So
yes, you do.
For those who have the eagle eye.
Yes, you do. You see him fly across the
Okay. Number one sci-fi. We're actually going to get ready to wrap up here because we're at almost 2.5 hours.
No, we got to keep going because we're almost longer than episode 9.
No.
But yeah, I gotta go. I'm starting to get kind of tired.
No, because honestly, it's almost 2.5 hours, and this has been. I think we've covered pretty much everything we want to cover and then some. And I want to thank y'all for being here.
Yeah. Before we go,
there's one.
What I was going to say is basically anybody who defends or says that episode 8 is a masterpiece and Ryan Johnson is whatever. If you're a guy, I don't think they dropped yet.
There were so many mistakes in that film. Like, for example, the whole they could track us through light speed. Hello, they've always been able to do that. Leia said they're tracking us when she left the Death Star.
Not this ship, sister.
Exactly. I mean, like that was such a big shocker that they're tracking us through light speed. Hello, we've done that.
The shoom that Laura Dern did, where she's coming through the smoke. Shoom! It's like, did you just seriously allow a mistake like that to be in a Star Wars film?
Yeah, and the holdover, really
makes no sense. But yeah, let's wrap this up. We'll bash episode 8 another time.
Okay, I got one thing I want to bring up before we wrap this up.
Certainly, Stephen. Go ahead.
They're doing a new trilogy. You think it's going to be Old Republic?
No.
It depends.
It's going to be High Republic, where everybody's sucking on cannabis.
No, I mean they're actually working on a new.
That's a good one.
That's
a good one, man. That's a good one.
No, they've got the Game of Thrones guys that are doing it. So
no. Benioff and Weiss. Benioff and Weiss actually they've been gone for months, man.
Oh,
they've been gone since last year. Really?
Yeah.
New trilogy. Tell me it's
nobody.
They cut their trilogy because of creative differences.
It sure as hell ain't gonna be RJ. And if it does,
and Ryan Johnson's not getting it because he told people to do something very inappropriate on Twitter.
So do you think so if they were to give it to Favreau and Filoni and say we're going to do Old Republic,
I'd be interested.
Yes, I would be interested.
Yes.
I would be interested.
Yeah,
because you got two guys who actually give a darn and know the universe.
Because I want to see the Old Republic on screen. Revan.
Old Republic, High Republic, either way, just as long as it's the Republic and there's
They want
Jedi.
to do a Revan thing, but they want Revan to be a female.
What?
I don't have a problem with that.
I don't have a problem with it either because the original coder you could have her male or have Revan male or female, but the lore did establish him as a male.
But Keanu Reeves was made for that role, man.
I know.
I would not put him in there as Revan. Not Revan.
Oh, he's made for that role.
Yes, the
Tom
look.
Hardy.
Yes, the look and whatnot, but
Tom Hardy,
not action.
Taika Waititi, maybe. Yeah, Taika Waititi. He might be.
Do not get me started on him. Let's wrap this up before we get started on him.
Okay. All right, folks. I want to thank everybody in the chat who's been here throughout, who has popped in and out. I appreciate y'all being here as always. To my panel, Steven, Orange Hat Reviews, Rogue Nerf Herders, Number One Sci-Fi, and Sir Nerdlaw. Thank y'all for tuning in tonight, and thank you for this great discussion on the Season 7 of Clone Wars and beyond, quite literally. Yeah. So, a quick note, there will be no Ambassadorial wedding next Saturday night. Next week is actually me and the Mrs. Wedding anniversary. We'll be celebrating 5 years. So there will be no live stream Saturday night. So everybody take a breather, relax and everything, and do your thing. I will have my Monday afternoon stream with Adega. We'll be resuming our Babylon 5 Season 1 review. So be sure to tune in for that at noon. Gentlemen, is there anything y'all want to plug for your channel before we sign off?
Orange Hat, you go first. Go ahead.
All right. Well, I'm Orange Hat Reviews. I do entertainment review, movie reviews, Hollywood news. I also do every 2 weeks on Friday night at 9:30 EST. I do versus streams. Last night I did one with Ambassador. We did Xenomorph Army versus EU Mandalorian Army. In 2 weeks.
Mandalorians kicked ass.
Yeah, they did, but they took losses. But in 2 weeks, it's going to be Darth Vitiate from the EU lore versus Darth Sidious or EU Darth Sidious, not this thingy that they got in the movies. Also, 2 weeks after that in June, because our friend Jane Theory recommended that Rey be put in a versus stream, we got the daughter of each emperor going up against each other. We got Valen versus Rey. So definitely stay tuned if you guys are interested in versus streams. And the panel that was last night is potentially going to be the panel in 2 weeks.
I'm there. Yep.
Oh yeah.
Vitiate versus Sidious. I'm there.
Yep.
I gotta start studying. Steven, anything you want to plug before we sign off?
Yes, I'm currently still filming because of this coronavirus. We've been severely delayed, but I'm still working on Star Wars Mara, where I tell Mara's backstory from her birth to her fall. You can find me on YouTube on Carpe Nerdium, where I talk with Jessica Lamb and other guest hosts about nerd stuff, everything Star Wars, you name it, we talk about it all. I also have another channel, The Relationship Life with Stephen Bastian. You can look at that, and I talk about everything from the first date to the 50th anniversary and everything in between. And I give relationship advice. And you can find me on Instagram at that Stephen Bastian. And other than that, I look great without a shirt. So, yeah.
So,
and
I'll
probably never be invited back here because I've pissed you guys off.
That is not true. Unlike
Dude, we had a healthy debate.
Yes, we did.
I love it.
Yes, we did.
My hat's
Healthy
off,
debate.
sir.
Yeah, Stephen,
I take my hat off, but that doesn't happen until 500 subs.
Yeah, and I'm pushing. I'm working towards 300, folks. If you want to see, as soon as I hit,
Get this guy to 300, people.
As soon as I get to 300, we're gonna do the 90s movie discussion and karaoke night, just like we did with the 80s and everything. So if you want to see that happen, let's get me to 300, and I'll do it. I am a man of my word, and most everybody that works with me will tell you that fact. So share, subscribe, whatever you have to do, so we get me to get my channel to 300, because I want to do this 90s movie music and karaoke night. So again, folks, I appreciate every single one of you that have tuned in tonight. I hope for those of you that will catch us on the replay, I hope you enjoyed the stream. I hope you enjoyed the discussion. I know I did, and everything. So y'all have a good night. I will see y'all Monday afternoon, and until next time, this is the Ambassadors signing off.